Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we'll give you our thoughts on how every single AFC team did during the 2022 NFL Draft. And first, well, we always hit some news and notes. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well. How you doing there, Bobby?
I'm all right. I had a little dental work done today, so I got this weird numbed mouth thing going. So if I start slurring my words or drooling on myself, please let me know.
Well, you drool on yourself more often anyway, so we'll let that one slide. But the slurring, maybe I'll mention it.
All right. So if I get the Saint Bernard look going, that's when I need to know.
Also, excessive drool. That's what I'm worried about. Excessive drool.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
I'll be on the lookout.
All right. Well, last week you told me you wanted me to go back and look at Danny Gray, receiver from SMU. I did it, and I came away feeling the same as I did. He's fast. I'll give you that. I didn't see a lot of wiggle, though. He, not real shifty player. He looked like a guy that was faster than the other guys around him, but that's it for me. He only went over 100 yards twice in the season. I looked that up as well. So I'm still sticking with he's going to be average at best. We may hear his name here and there, but I still think Calvin Austin was the correct pick at that point in the draft.
I buy what you're selling. I don't think he's necessarily going to be an all-pro player, but I just think where he went and what he can do and what he can offer stretch in the field, I just think there's an opportunity. This guy could really put up some numbers. Might be good in a dynasty league, right?
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know when you would pick him. Again, I'd still pick Calvin Austin ahead of the guy we've been talking about.
So would I.
I do have an apology. I apologize for this little tidbit of information I did not bring up last week. But did you hear about Sam Howell's dietary preferences?
I did not.
He said that he has never eaten a steak or a burger. He doesn't eat red meat. He's never even tried a bite. He orders chicken tenders at steakhouses and brings his own tendies with him when going somewhere else, like to somebody else's house for a cookout. He'll bring his own tendies. And now I know why he fell to the fifth round.
You think it's simply his eating habits?
Kevin, these are football players. They eat red meat. They don't bring chicken tenders to friends' houses.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I've never done that in my life either, but I do love me some dinosaur nuggets. My little lady ate the heck out of those growing up. And I'll be honest, I like to dip them in honey, but I'd much rather have a nice steak on the grill.
Okay, I agree. I also don't need to know about anything you like to dip in honey.
You don't like honey on your nuggets? I've been doing that since I was a kid.
Okay.
What's wrong with you?
I do enjoy honey on my nuggets, but I don't necessarily need to talk about what I dip in honey with you, Kevin.
Okay, but we need to talk about you drooling like a Saint Bernard.
I'm trying to, not embarrass myself on camera here.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Let me ask you this: why does he not eat red meat? Is he Hindu? Is he just?
I don't know. I didn't hear.
He had a pet cow when he was young and feels bad.
No. That's all I heard, and I kind of quit listening after.
Well, you need to dig deeper into this because I think people want to get to the bottom of this. I mean, that's a big matzo ball you're leaving hanging out there, big boy.
I will dig deeper.
Please do
into the Sam Howell chicken. You
please
got
do.
It. While we're at it, we should pour one out for Tariq Cohen. Poor fella coming back from a torn ACL, videotaping how well his workout's going and pops his Achilles. So poor guy. That's probably going to be it for him.
A mess. Already missed the last year and a half because of an injury. Finally back in shape, hoping to get a spot, just returning a punt here and there, and yoink, snap, done. And for the world to see live.
I know.
I mean, what can you say?
I know. I can say that I'm pretty pumped. So excited, in fact, that I'm wearing my Eagles Super Bowl champion t-shirt because I'm that excited about the newest signing of cornerback James Bradberry, 1 year, $10 million deal to my Eagles. I understand that it's probably going to turn out like most of the other free agent acquisitions the Eagles get, especially a cornerback, the Nnamdi Asamoahs, the Byron Maxwells, whatever. I'm excited now, this 9:19 p.m. on May 18th. I'm pumped about it. Don't you dare try to bring me down.
Well, why would I? I texted you today. Well, you mentioned it to me. I was actually mowing at the time. So I got your text. I looked real quick, saw that the signing. First of all, I love the price. The price is maybe even a deal for the Eagles. I like the price, and 1 year, make him prove it. Didn't have a stellar year last year. But I wrote to you, might be the final piece to winning the NFC East. And you wrote back, you took the words out of my mouth. He really might be. If he's 75% of what he was, that's good enough in that division to be the missing link.
Especially
it's a great signing. It's a great signing. It sort of came out of nowhere. I don't remember seeing, reading, hearing, seeing on Twitter, anything anywhere that this was even in the works. So
as an Eagles fan,
it's great. I mean,
time,
it could really change the dynamic of that division. I'm not going to say necessarily they're Super Bowl winners now, but I think that might have put them that one little step ahead of the Cowboys now.
Darius Slay on the other side, he was PFF's, I think, 7th ranked cover corner last year. So, I mean, that is quite a 1-2 punch. Definitely the best in the NFC East as far as cornerbacks go.
Oh, yeah.
The top 2 guys. So very excited about that. And one more thing that I have before we get into breaking down our AFC draft is a little, I think we should do this every episode. Maybe one fun little get your bell rung fact. Something I stumbled upon the other day. I posted it on Twitter, but Amari Cooper is 1 year older than Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is entering his 4th season. Cooper is entering his 8th.
It's crazy.
That is insane because I feel like McLaurin just got here and I feel like Cooper's been here forever. I had no idea they were 1 year apart.
I wouldn't have known that either.
Wild.
Yeah, no idea.
I don't know. And those guys, in fantasy drafts, they're taking, I mean, probably within 5 receivers of each other. They're close, right there, wide receiver 2s probably. McLaurin, you could argue maybe a back end wide receiver 1, depending on how that situation plays out. But I thought that was a pretty interesting fact.
Cooper's been in the league so long that I don't even remember where he went to college.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like he's been around forever.
Almost a decade.
Wow.
Think about that. He's been in the league almost a decade. He's 1 year older than Terry McLaurin, who feels like he was a rookie just, 2 years ago.
Did you say it feels like he was a rookie 2 years ago?
Correct.
I think he was a rookie 2 years ago, wasn't he?
Well, this is year 4 for him. So, yeah.
Okay, so 3 years ago. But it feels like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. He's a young guy.
That whole year.
A year's a long time.
It really threw you off.
Big time. Big time. Big wrench in the spokes.
Oh, dude.
All right, buddy. AFC East. Buffalo Bills. As much as the fantasy player in me wanted the Bills to take Breece Hall in the first round, or Kenneth Walker, either one, I'm a Kenny Walker guy. I love that they took Kyer Elam with the 23rd pick. I think we called that in our mock draft, actually. They also took James Cook, running back from Georgia, in the 2nd. That helped lessen the fantasy sting of not getting our first round running back. But before the dude even put his Buffalo Bills hat on, the Buffalo brass came out and said, yeah, this guy's not a workhorse. He's only a 3rd down back, which sucks for Cook because during the draft process, he came out and said I got the skill set. I want to be a one-man show. Let's do it. But apparently that will not be in the cards for him at the NFL level. Shakir, wide receiver from Boise State, he got comp to Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is not bad if he can, have a rookie year, even a sophomore year next year, similar to what Amon-Ra had. And then the cornerback Christian Benford, they took it 185. Solid player, smart player from Maryland, but I don't know that he has a top end speed that's needed to cover these guys in the AFC East.
Yeah, I gave them an A- overall because they really hit their needs. Got the Elam, who they said they were targeting all along. That's the guy they wanted there. The
dude walks around with a notebook, takes notes everywhere he goes, every meeting, everything. Love it.
And he's got that NFL pedigree in the family. Cook was great to get him where they did at 63 and not reach for Brees that early. That's great. But yeah, we talked about this on our earlier podcast about players being typecast before they ever even step foot on the field. The guy has no chance to ever be a workhorse running back. It's just not going to happen. And that whole thing's a mess there, and how they use everything. And the simple fact that their short yardage back is their quarterback. So you wouldn't even have that anyway. But the guy's going to catch some passes. This offense is going to be just rock. I mean, defensive coordinator nightmare. My favorite pick of theirs is the punt god, who in fact last year set a new NCAA record, averaging 51.19 yards per punt. Literally named the punt god. So I'm loving that. I mean, that's great. That's another thing. That's those little things that you do that make it so you can jump the Chiefs, make it so you can jump the Chargers, the Bengals, the whoever else is going to be great in the AFC. You get an extra 5 yards out of a punt. 6 times a game, that's an extra 30 yards of field position. So little things like that. It's huge.
Agreed.
So I liked it. They hit the things they did. I now officially am on the Bills bandwagon, and I think they've officially passed the Chiefs as the front runner in the AFC.
How do you not love the Bills? I mean, even their fans are great.
Oh, yeah.
They're cold and they're miserable all year long, but they love their team. They crush sausages at tailgates and break tables. They have a wonderful fan base. I love it.
Their fan base is great for one really specific reason. When they lose, they support them even harder than when they win. Where almost every other fan base is death threats and this and that and the other, and I'm burning jerseys in the front yard because they lost a freaking football game. The Bills rally, the fans rally around the players, and it's so cool to interact. Like the players do so much with the fans and the community. It's like they're all just part of the team. I got a guy down the street from me that he goes to 3 or 4 games a year up there. He's just diehard Bills guy, but actually goes up.
Good for him.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Cook is a lot of people are talking about, well, he's a pass catching back and they don't like throwing the football to their running backs. Between Singletary and Moss last year, they had 82 targets. I wouldn't say, I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at there, right?
No,
that's a decent amount of targets. And maybe they didn't like throwing the ball to those running backs. They might like throwing it to Cook.
They might. And the thing is, when you have an offense like that, and they have a pretty strong defense too, I've seen the Buffalo defense ranked in some places #1 going.
They were last year.
The preseason. Yeah, ranked #1 overall. So their offense has so many opportunities that you can't help but be on field. I think they were either 1 or 2 in the league last year in offensive plays. So you can't help but get opportunities. And they wouldn't, I don't think they'd have went so high with him if they didn't plan on using them. I'd say Zach Moss's days are extremely numbered.
Man, he might be out of there this year, man.
He might.
Next up, Miami. Well, they started by giving this year's 1st, 2nd, and 4th round pick, plus a 4th and a 6th round pick next year in order to acquire Tyreek Hill from Kansas City. They only had 4 picks, and they used one of them on a 7th round quarterback. So tough to really nail a draft. Now, granted, you factor Tyreek Hill in here. I get that. But when you really only had 3 picks, because you got a starting QB and a 7th round quarterback, he's probably maybe practice squad. But really the only impact player I could find was Channing Tindall. He's a linebacker from, you guessed it, the team we've been talking about nonstop, Georgia. It's tough to figure out where he'll be or what he'll be considering all the talent that he played with at Georgia. Like he looked good sometimes, but again, everybody on that defense looked good. Worst case though, this guy's going to be on all the special teams. So he's going to make an impact in one phase of the game. I'm not sure what kind of spot he'll find on the defensive side of the ball.
It was an odd pick. He's fast, flies all over the place. But I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I may have read that he never started a game there. Never.
I think that's true. I'm not one to never say never, but if I was put my money on it, I'm almost positive that's what I read as well.
Right. He did not start a game. He was always the backup to Dean and Walker. it just seems when you've only got 4 picks and your first one's not even to 102, that you might want to at least pick a guy who tended to start in college. Now we know Georgia's second number 2 defense, their whole second string was probably as good as half the teams in the NCAA, but still so odd with all the players that were picked after him. I don't get it. The receiver they got, Ezekanma, everything I read, stone hands, straight stone hands, made no sense. And I just can't trust anybody named Skylar. I've tried for years, but if you're named Skylar, you got one strike against you from me. So
Interesting.
I gave these guys
Name another Skylar that you don't like. Like, why you?
Well, I'm not going to name the Skylar. I know like three or four Skylars I've met in my life. I'm not going to get their whole name and sell them out here on this.
I didn't realize these were personal friends of yours that you.
Well, they're
hate
not
so
my
much.
personal friends because they're named Skylar.
Okay. Boy.
I mean, so
Fair
I
enough.
gave them a C just for the draft, but I gave them a B overall. Because you can make the argument that they have the best 1-2 receiver group in the freaking league. You
With
really
Hill and Waddle.
could, between Tyreek and Waddle, if not the fastest. You know, and we've
Well.
seen this thing where he got Tyreek, this viral video where he got underthrown last week from Tua. Like, really? Like, that doesn't happen 1,000 times in preseason practice, receivers getting underthrown. But that said, I'm still really worried about Tua, man. These guys are one strong quarterback away from being a serious contender. But yeah, this draft was less than stellar. And man, they gave up so much.
They did.
That
They
is
did.
why what you have your little chart. What did your little chart say about? I can't imagine the numbers were even close to in Miami's favor.
I would have to go back and look at pre-draft where each of them were picking, and then have to do crunch the numbers. I'll let us know next week, or I'll post it. I'll post on the Facebook page.
Okay. Well, when you have the numbers, are they just straight draft slots? How do you factor in an all-pro player for draft picks? Is it even work that way?
No, well, what you do is you would add up the draft picks that were used. So like for Devontae Adams, if you added up the draft capital that was used, it came to be like the 11th or 12th overall pick is what it equaled.
Okay.
So you would definitely use that pick on Devontae Adams.
Right.
So that's kind of how that math works.
But this
for
seems
a
excessive.
player.
Right. It really seems like a lot. But hey, if it works out, it works out. They've got a solid team.
Well, as far as odd drafts go, not to be outdone by their AFC East counterparts, the Patriots were the Patriots again, year after year. They take Cole Strange in the first round. That obviously we talked about Sean McVay and the Rams laughing, thinking that they were going to get him maybe at pick 104, 102, wherever they picked, and the Patriots took him at 28 or something like that. Now, if the goal is to
29.
draft, okay, if the goal is to draft starting players, the Patriots probably did that because they're going to find creative ways to use these guys. I don't think anyone drafts towards their scheme better than Belichick. But I'm not sure they needed to be drafted where they were. Like Cole Strange was a reach. Then in the second round, they go get Tyquan Thornton from Baylor. The dude's 6'2" and ran a 4.28 40. That's unheard of. It still was a reach where they got him, and it's an odd pick. Have the Patriots ever drafted a player like that? Tall, skinny, flies down the field. I mean, Mac Jones.
It doesn't matter what receiver they pick. They all bomb.
That's true. They did take back-to-back corners, Marcus Jones and Jack Jones, Jones brothers here. But again, they don't have a ton of recognition behind
They're
them.
small.
Now
they're not big guys either.
JC Jackson went undrafted, and he's a stud that New England picked up and developed. So I don't know. They obviously know something we don't know, or they're absolutely as clueless as everyone thinks they are. And unfortunately, our boy Pierre Strong, man,
that's their best pick.
This guy to death. He was, but it sucks that that's where he went.
Yep.
Because they have him, Damian Harris, James White, Ramajay Stevenson, J.J. Taylor. They even drafted another running back from South Carolina, Kevin Harris.
They did.
I don't know how many running backs you need on a team, but good grief, they got enough.
Yeah, it's odd. they that whole thing fantasy wise drives us all nuts. I guess it's great for them. You always have a fresh workhorse, but you and I talked earlier in the week. Any given week, Pierre Strong could go out there and have 17 rushes for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the next week he won't dress.
That's correct.
That's
Healthy scratch.
Belichick.
No,
The
we're good.
Thornton thing really throws me off, but the Strange a round and a half early. I think I told you earlier, like everything in here is a round and a half early. But
Like the Cowboys.
Thornton was picked before Alec Pierce, George Pickens, Sky Moore.
Wow.
Wow. Did anybody anywhere have him going before all those guys? What do they know about him? It's just I don't understand. Is it the speed thing? What is Al Davis there like in the background? He come back from the dead and he's running the Patriots now. I mean, I don't.
Since when is Belichick enamored with speed? That's never
I know
happened.
this whole thing made no sense. And again, something we've discussed is Belichick now just drafting intentionally bad just so he can try to prove to the world that you're all idiots and I'm going to make these nobodies into great players and I'm going to win a Super Bowl anyway. So I gave him a C-. I think they had the worst draft in the entire NFL because it made no sense.
At least they drafted a backup quarterback at 137, Bailey Zappi. He projects to be a long-term backup. Every human being that watched this guy play was like, yep, you know what? He's going to be a really good backup for a long time.
It's so odd. And Kevin Harris might start off, but he might be their goal line back from the start. He's a bruiser.
Yeah, but so is Damian Harris.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Stevenson.
You can't win with this. Like from a fantasy standpoint, everybody don't touch a New England back. I don't care if they're sitting there in the 14th. Just let it be. Because you might be saying, oh, well, he ended up 27th overall. Yeah, but the week you play him is the week he has 3 carries for 7 yards. The next week when you have him on your bench is the 120 yards and 2 touchdowns week.
Was it Jonas Gray?
Jonas Gray had 170 yards and 4 touchdowns, and they traded him to Miami 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
He like the next week barely had like 2 carries a week after. He didn't even dress, and then they traded him to Miami.
Unreal.
It's just so bizarre.
Well, I'm kind of hoping there's a little change of the guard here in the AFC East, and I'm really rooting for the Jets. I've been rooting for a while because they've been so bad for so long. But I gotta say, they really did themselves some favors with this draft because,
glorious.
Man, did they knock it out of the park. They get Sauce Gardner, who inexplicably went after Derek Stingley, but good for you, Jets.
He's a dreamboat. He's a dreamboat, Sauce.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson at 10 overall. Then at pick like 25, 26, they trade back in the first round because somehow Jermaine Johnson is still there. Still, Magic. It has been like 3 weeks since the draft ended, and I still have not found a single person who knows why Johnson felt like he did. Not one. We already talked about Breece Hall. It's going to probably spell the end for the ceiling that we thought Michael Carter might have. Carter had 15 or 16 carries 3 times last year. During those games, 77 yards rushing, 39 yards rushing, and 118 yards rushing. The 39-yard outing came against the Bills. They had the number 1 ranked defense. That's fine. But when he got the rock, he performed except against number 1 defense, but he did well. Jeremy Ruckert, tight end at 101. I think this is an interesting pick because it feels like the Jets have been trying forever to get a tight end. This offseason, they signed CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin in free agency, and then they drafted Ruckert out of Ohio State. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a star, but it definitely shows a dedication to the position. And Robert Saleh, their head coach, came from San Francisco. They got one of the best tight ends in the game. Now, obviously, none of these guys are George Kittle, but he knows what a solid tight end can do for an offense. So I like it. I like all of it.
I gave them an A. The only reason I can give them an A+ is waiting so long on a tackle. They got Max Mitchell-Late, who's 6'6", 307, and they're saying there's a chance they'll put him anywhere. They might even play him at center if they need him to. Very, very versatile guy.
He might start from the get-go because who knows what's going on with Mekhi Becton. Yep. Apparently he got hurt last year and just gave up on life. They said he was over 400 pounds.
Yeah,
so
I saw that.
Who knows what that dude's going through? I mean, if he rolls into camp 402, then Max Mitchell might be his starting tackle, buddy.
Right. Yeah. So they pretty much had everything they needed. getting Brees Hall there at 36 after you already had 3 first-round picks, that's just a luxury pick. Didn't make a lot of sense to us, but it does. It does and it doesn't, right? I mean, the value of getting him there, even though you already had Michael Carter and a couple other guys, Ty Johnson, that work in this offense now, when you look it down at the people, we got a
It
freaking
can be
football
humming,
team.
buddy.
So,
Yes.
Greeny, Greenberg, he hates every Jets draft ever. He's like the most diehard Jets guy on earth. He even says himself that this is the first he's had hope in forever, and that he thinks this may be their greatest draft they ever had. And typically he rips their drafts apart. But Greeny says he finally has hope, which he's worried about because he knows they'll still probably win 3 games. But
They
this
have
is
the
a team
building
that in
blocks for
2
the
or 3
foundation.
years, we might be looking back on this draft as in, wow.
This is it.
Wow.
This is it.
Because that's,
Well,
wow.
I love it. Well, another wow, and one that will probably be doing the same thing in 2 or 3 years, was the Baltimore Ravens. It feels like it's another year, another dollar. It's what they do. Kyle Hamilton somehow falls to them at 14. They trade back up in the first round to get Tyler Linderbaum, the best center in the draft. David Ajabo falls to 45 because of an injury. He's a perfect fit for Baltimore. Travis Jones, D tackle, they got at 76. He was going in numerous mock drafts in the first round. This dude had first round aspirations.
Yeah, number
they got
2.
him at 76.
Yeah. Most
Even
people
their
had him
tackle,
ranked at number 2 nose tackle. Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Falele, an enormous offensive tackle.
6'8".
Could have gone in the second round. Easy. Got him in the 4th.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why they drafted 2 tight ends again, or why they drafted another running back in Tyler Beatty, but it's kind of what they do. The last time they drafted 2 tight ends, it was Mark Andrews was one of them, Hayden Hurst the other, so that paid off. But man, good for you, Baltimore. You crushed it.
Well, on that tight end Kohler, he pretty much is an Andrews clone. He looks like him. He moves like him. Smart guy to have in there. Little injuries, have great backup. But yeah, Hamilton to 14 from 4. I mean, really? You got essentially, at least in Kuiper's rankings, the number 1 safety, the number 1 center, the number 1 outside linebacker, the number 2 nose tackle. All these guys. And it's not like they were they had 2 first-round picks, but they didn't. These are guys that could have went all in the first round, and they got them in such great places. They got JAD from Alabama for depth at corner. Peters and Humphrey coming back from injuries. You got that. So I gave them an A, because for those of you that don't know, I'm obviously a diehard Ravens fan. So
And I want them to lose because he's a diehard Ravens fan.
Let's see. That's what's just messed up, because I don't root against the Eagles just because you like them.
I was giving you a hard time, buddy.
No, I don't think you are. I think you got a bad attitude when it comes to the Ravens, or me. So you got all that stuff going. They even got Tyler Beatty, fast running back from Missouri. Never know.
Wow.
When you lose 3 every preseason, it's nice to have some backup. So Tyson Williams isn't your starter in week 1. So this was nice, but no A+, because the Hollywood trade, I would have never got this, but researching this week, I never thought this, because you don't think of them really passing much, which they don't pass as much as most teams. He had 146 targets last year, 10th in the entire NFL.
Well, I was always surprised. It was week after week during the fantasy season. I would look up to see who the top receivers are and who was doing well. And Hollywood was always near the top there for the longest time.
Yeah, there's a site I go to every week for the Once and Done League. Targets, nothing but targets every game for the season, constant.
Yep.
And when I looked at that, it was pretty consistent. It wasn't like he had a 19 and then a 4. But I had no idea he was 10th in the league in targets. It blew my mind. So essentially, if they're throwing to him. Well, now it's Rashad Bateman. And I know Bateman's been getting on Twitter saying, believe it, people. I'm coming for everybody.
I like Bateman.
I want to believe it as a Ravens fan, but as a football fan, I don't know that it's necessarily true. He's not just, I think he could be a true number 1, but he's going to be a number 1 that has nothing else. Right now, Devin Duvernay's number 2. So you don't even have a number 2 that's going to take any heat away from you at all. So they really have got to go out and I know
Well, there's still some
guys
guys
don't
out
want to
there.
go there because they're afraid they're not going to get the rock, but they've got to push hard for a Julius Jones or an OBJ. Somebody, even just because of the name itself, inspires 10% of fear in the defense. Not
Now,
legit fear anymore, but at least enough to help these guys develop so something can happen. That's a lot of targets to lose.
I'm not sure Julius Jones is going to get any of them, though. I'm pretty
That would
sure.
be cool, though.
I'm pretty sure he's hung them
It'll
up.
probably be Julio, but
Hey,
nonetheless,
what about Cole Beasley?
Julius
For real, what
Jones
about Cole
had a
Beasley?
couple really stellar years. I think he was going in like late first, early second rounds, one or two of those years, because he was putting up some serious numbers.
What about Cole Beasley in the slot?
Doesn't excite me. I think his best days are behind him.
Okay.
Plus, it seems like everybody in the NFL hates him now because of his Rona stance. I don't necessarily. I don't find that as an upgrade. I find that as having sort of an extra receivers coach on the team, which I wouldn't be upset with that for the right price. I'm saying, not saying don't bring him in, but somebody that can really take some heat off Bateman so that he can maybe get open once in a while. But overall, wow, another just stellar draft. You were just angry the whole time. Players falling in my lap.
Absolutely. Well, this I wanted them. Cincinnati, I don't have a whole lot for them, honestly, with their draft. I love that they got Daxton Hill at 31. I thought he's a top 15, top 20 talent for them to get in there. I thought it was a steal. And they followed that up with Cam Taylor-Britt, cornerback from Nebraska.
Yep.
He should be able to help them out. I mean, probably right away.
I'm saying he'll probably play safety, though, and corner some, but more safety than anything.
Well, they got to do something about Eli Apple. He was a liability is an understatement. But honestly, other than that, the only pick I really liked too much was the Gunter pick at the end. He might be able to work himself into some meaningful snaps coming off the edge for them. Yeah,
he'll be a situational guy to go in there and wreck somebody. I gave them a B because I didn't think it was bad. I think it was great. Actually, what I wrote for them was solid but uninspiring. That's my word lately, uninspiring.
It is.
The big thing, though, getting Hill, because Jesse Bates, they franchised.
He's not playing.
I assume you saw the other day, he was mentioning before, but he refuses to sign under that franchise deal. So, I mean, he had an off year, but he rocked it in the playoffs. So, man, that could be a huge hit for them. So what do? You get Daxton Hill to take his place. And if for someone else happens, you got Taylor-Britt, who can play safety or slot corner or whatever he needs to do. So, yeah, not exciting, but they don't have a lot of needs right now. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl, so it's not like they have a lot of glaring holes here. I mean, potentially they could have won that Super Bowl. That last pass, if he would have noticed our boy Jalen Ramsey falling on his face again and Jamar Chase sprinting by him with nobody else even on that side of the field, if he'd have just chucked it up there, we'd be talking about how Matt Stafford's overrated, not a first year Hall of Famer.
You might be right. So we'll move on to Cleveland here. They gave up their first round pick this year and the next two, plus future picks for Deshaun Watson. Now, I envision Nick Caserio, the GM of the Texans, on the phone with the Browns as Kevin Costner in Draft Day. You've seen that movie, right? Yeah. But I understand it's the Browns, but we're reversing the roles here. Nick Caserio, and he's just on the phone. He's saying, "I want your first round pick this year, your first round pick next year, and your first round pick the following year, because I feel like it." Only thing they needed to throw in there was David Putney.
David Putty?
Putney.
Oh, I thought you said David Putty from Seinfeld.
No, it's David Putney, the kick returner that Kevin Costner had to have just because he felt like it. I love it.
I think David Putty would have been cooler.
In general, the Cleveland draft kind of confused me. I wasn't a fan of their first pick, cornerback Martin Emerson from Mississippi State, but I actually liked their next 5. So I didn't like the beginning. I liked the middle. The end didn't really do anything for me. But Alex Wright, edge from UAB, was good. Purdue wide receiver David Bell. You know I love Perion Winfrey, especially at pick 108. Kicker Cade York is nice. And Jerome Ford, running back from Cincinnati. Now, I didn't like Ford's tape very much when I watched it, but in the middle of the 5th round for a team that loves to run the ball. Plus, Kareem Hunt's probably not going to be around. I think he's going to be gone after this season. He'll be out of there.
This year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
going to want to start somewhere again.
yeah. And I heard that Kevin Stefanski, head coach of the Browns, he told the GM, the owner, he said, look, by the end of this draft, I have to have David Bell.
Yep.
Got to have it.
Yeah.
Which another draft day reference. It's fitting because this time it is the Browns, but in the movie, Kevin Costner writes down Vontae Mack, no matter what, put that paper in his pocket. It's David Bell, no matter what, for the Browns. So they got their guy, and they don't have the Jarvis Landry anymore. I think he'll be a solid player.
Yeah, I saw that David Bell thing, and I researched a little more. There was one of those things too that they didn't mention him to anyone. They didn't mention to their own people, to anyone else, because they didn't want even one iota of that getting out and him going earlier, because they were pretty sure they could get him there. And obviously that worked out. I don't think Emerson's that bad. I know a lot of people think it's a reach, but he's a solid guy, and he's going up against SEC guys all season long. So he's NFL ready. Maybe they could have went a different route there, but I don't know. I don't think it's bad. Wright's great. Winfrey and Thomas are teammates. So that's nice. You got two guys that know how the other guy operates. I gave him a B+.
Winfrey's my number 1 or 2 defensive tackle coming out.
Okay.
I love him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's awesome.
He's good. And you got Cade York. Kickers, baby.
Yes.
Kickers.
Yes.
Number 1 ranked kicker coming out of LSU in the nation. And they got him there in the 5th round. Why not?
Yeah,
absolutely. I love kickers. Fantasy stalwarts.
I got no. Their kickers do not belong on fantasy.
Oh, they're glorious. I'm thinking about adding 2 kickers to my league.
Hey, and well, see you later. Another team with a nice draft, Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, they are the only team to jump at a quarterback in that first round. The only team to jump at a quarterback in the first or second round. They took Kenny Pickett at 20, and they even came out and they said, look, this guy was our floor quarterback. They actually used the word floor. He had the highest floor of anybody, and we think his floor, not only was it the highest of the guys coming out of the draft, we think it's just high in general. We think this guy is going to be, he's not going to fail. He's not going to be a flop. They like him. So they got it there, and they got their guy. They also took player you love, especially George Pickens, a guy I love, DeMarvin Leal, the defensive tackle, and my guy, Calvin Austin. And I know that we discussed this off air, but Kenny Pickett, I know he's a rookie, and a lot of folks said nobody's ready out of this class to come in and lead their team, but a lot of Mr. Trubisky's money's tied up in if he plays 60% of the snaps.
Yeah, he got rooked.
I know, man. And while we were both really rooting for Trubisky,
he should fire his agent a week ago.
It's not even if Pickett is as good as Trubisky, if Pickett's even close, they're going to play Pickett to save themselves some money, and poor Trubisky is going to get hung out to dry.
I buy what you're selling a little bit, but not really. Because in the NFL, the little bit of money that they actually would have to pay him, if Trubisky is winning them games, they will gladly pay it. We're talking about billionaires. We're talking about these guys. They don't care about a few million here, a few million there if they're winning games. But that said, Pickett might be better than him already.
And what if it's close and they don't even give Trubisky the chance?
And that I don't like. We talked about this.
I agree.
We think Trubisky got shafted in Chicago. He gets to go to Buffalo for a year, learn how to play the position, and then gets his chance to start, and then just gets bowled over here. So I gave them an A-/C, because this whole draft comes on one guy. If Pickett works out, this is brilliant. If he does not, this draft isn't going to mean crap, because those receivers aren't going to mean crap either. And being a PA guy, I've looked at some of the local Pittsburgh things. There's a lot of people there that were not happy with Pickett, that they feel that the whole hometown boy thing played a little too much role when they made their final pick, and that they really did not want to go that way. All we can do is play the games to find out. And as far as the receivers, I freaking adore Pickens. He's a head case, but I think he still has the potential to be the best receiver long term of any of this whole draft. And Austin, I'm pretty sure when we had a guy that we wanted to go to bat for, when we were talking about the pre-draft, I'm pretty sure Calvin Austin was the guy I was going to bat for that I thought should go higher than what he was going to.
Yeah. And weeks before that, that was one of those guys, right when you started watching tape, I was like, hey, make sure when you're done your receivers and your first round guys, make sure you check out Calvin Austin.
Oh yeah,
He's
he
electric,
can move.
man.
So,
but I can tell you that I heard for a fact George Pickens was the number one receiver on several teams' boards.
Yeah,
for the draft. Number one on everybody.
We have had on a previous episode, we thought he had the highest catch rate of all these number one or first round, second round guys, the highest highest catch rate, least lowest drop rate. And now we get Connor Hayward, number one ranked fullback as well, and brother Cam Hayward, so they get to play together. Yeah. So they hit it. And of course, under this, I wrote my blurb for their draft was 2 words in bold: hate this. Well, so irritating because the Steelers just really are not for me.
I tell you, the one thing that confused me a little bit was only 2 of their 7 picks were on the defensive side of the ball, and they had the worst rushing defense in the league last year, which was shocking to me because I feel like as it was happening, that didn't really register to me. But no one gave them a rush.
They had a lot of injuries. They really did on defense, and I loved it. Again, you and I, we try not to root for people getting injured, but when Steelers get injured, I don't exactly cry in my beer.
Well, obviously not.
Well, I don't want to ruin a perfectly good beer. Plus, it's the Steelers.
Obviously not. Plus, machines don't bleed, buddy. We don't cry.
Well said. Well said.
All right. AFC South. I keep looking at these AFC teams keep coming up, and this is just sort of reiterating what we talked about previously, is that the AFC, I really do think as a whole, they had better drafts than the NFC teams, because
absolutely.
Now, granted, when you're Houston and you have a need at literally every position, it's not hard to have a good draft. All you have to do is just not screw it up. And I don't think that they did. They took Derek Stingley at 3 over Sauce Gardner, which obviously we don't like, but you know what? He's still a solid player.
He just shouldn't have gone at 3. That's all.
Right.
He should have gone at 8, 9, 10.
Right. They traded back with Philly, so Philly could hop up and take Jordan Davis, and they ended up getting Kenyon Green, who was my favorite interior lineman in the draft.
He'll start right away.
They took Jalen Petrie at safety, who, again, another guy I love. John Mechie, receiver from Alabama and from our went to high school in our hometown, Hagerstown, Maryland. Christian Harris, linebacker, 75. He was, I think, my 4th or 5th ranked linebacker. Love that pick. And then Damian Pierce, running back from Florida. Now, Pierce wasn't used much in college, but he's big, strong, got good balance. If you told me that, I mean, you put money down, who's going to start more games this year, Rex Burkhead or Damian Pierce?
100% Damian Pierce. Everything I read coming out of Houston, there's no way he's not going to be the starter by week 5, if not week 1. And they expect him to put up good numbers. I think he's going to too. He's one of these guys, these Terrell Davis types. They go really late. A few people are high on them. Most people are like, who? And next thing you know, the dude's Pro Bowler.
We're looking at 6 potential starters this year on top of every first-round pick the Browns plan to have until my 4-year-old graduates from high school.
Yep.
I don't think any other team drafted that many starters for now. I don't think any other team had the need to draft that many starters, but they were able to do it. I mean, these guys would start on most teams that they would have gone to.
Yeah, this was a great draft. I gave them a B only because they didn't get any defensive ends anywhere. They really need to plug up the center more too. You're right. Need after need after need after need. And they're still not even sure if Davis Mills is their quarterback. So they got so much. And Mechie, no, I'm sure that he's going to be this year. I'm saying they're not sure he's the long-term answer. So you could have this great draft. You don't, in the NFL, you don't have the quarterback. You don't have anything. So next year, then they're going back to that. Mechie, he might play this year. It'll be iffy. He'll definitely start on the top.
He'll play this year.
I think it's the SEC championship games where he tore it, right? So that would have been what, early December when he tore it?
He tore it
late November
before Jameson Williams did, and Williams is coming back probably.
Oh, it's way before Jameson, because Mechie tore his in the SEC championship game. That's way before all that playoff stuff. Yes, that was late November, early December. So yeah,
So
he
should be
might
good.
play. I hope. They did have the worst run game in the league last year in yards per game and yards per carry. So I think
Well,
getting
it wasn't
Pierce
for
at
lack of trying.
107. What's
It,
that?
it wasn't for lack of trying.
No, it wasn't. They had a lot of guys, and they actually had a couple good games. Rex,
Yeah.
he lit it up a couple times. I love that fella. Yeah, I like this. They hit needs. They got
They got
depth.
good players. They got good players,
They did.
and they got good value on the good players.
They did. No doubt. Like I
Well
said,
done.
I gave them a B. I wanted to give them higher, but I think they've got a good start, and they're in a division that a few good players here and there, you can compete right away. There's no team that's going to run away with this division.
Oh, I agree. Well, one of them that would like to, and has the opportunity would be the Indianapolis Colts. They unfortunately did not pick on day one due to the Carson Wentz trade. In my notes, I put ... LOL. One thing I got to give the Eagles, they are really good at getting rid of quarterbacks that aren't good anymore. Wentz, Donovan McNabb, Sam Bradford. Dude, Kevin Cobb was traded to the Cardinals to be the Cardinals starter. Philly got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie and a second-round pick for Kevin Cobb. Sam Bradford was traded for a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick. McNabb was traded to the Redskins for a second and a third or a fourth. I don't know what it ended up being.
It was
Um,
ridiculous.
all of those players played for a combined 6 years for the next team. 4 players, but I mean, Kevin Cobb technically played 2 years, but he was hurt. I mean, it's absurd. If anybody needs a quarterback, don't get it from Philly.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
just name recognition. That's all that stuff was. But it
Gosh,
worked out
man.
great for Philly, sort
Yeah,
of.
got
They
that
did
right.
get a Super Bowl
Well,
eventually.
eventually, you're right.
But overall, they
Um,
squandered all those picks.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Indy's first round, the first pick they took was at 53. And man, I really liked it. I thought it was a great one. Alec Pierce, wide receiver from Cincinnati, 6'3", ran a sub 4.40 at 6'3". His game is very similar, I think, to Drake London's. Both big, fast. They got big wingspans. They can box people out. And he came at a 45 pick discount because Drake London went 8 overall to the Falcons. Pierce's career average depth of target, 16.9 yards. So we're talking 17 yards is where he was when he was targeted. The only player in the NFL with meaningful playing time to come close to that last year was Cortland Sutton, who had 15.4. Now they took Jelani Woods at 73, tight end, a little bit of a reach. Woods is the most athletic tight end coming out. He's got a lot of work to do, though. I know Frank Reich loves tight ends. He drafted another tight end at pick 192. I think 73 is a little early, though, for Woods. And I think
Where
they
would
got
you have
lucky with
taken? Where do you think he should have went?
Woods.
Yeah, because I've seen this. I mean, I've just seen some things that really think that he could be a game changer.
I thought that perhaps, but the amount of work that is going to have to go in to him to get there. I mean, even Greg Dulcich, he's a more polished player than Woods is. I'd have rather had him there. And he went, I don't know, 6 picks later, something like that. So there were other tight ends out there, I think, that could have gone. We talked about Ruckert earlier to the Jets. He went after that. So,
But you're
there are
typically
other
you're typically a floor guy. I like to be a ceiling guy. So you
correct.
wanted to go with the floor here.
Well, I Dulcich, I think, I don't know. I liked him. I mean, he's athletic as well. The Woods is like historically athletic. He's like he's got baby Mo Alley Cox. It's like Mo Alley Cox's little brother.
Let's go that. Mo Alley Cox sort of teaches him for a year, and then he jumps right into the starting role. He's a TD. What would he have? I think I saw 11 touchdowns in 12 games last year.
Yeah, but if he's Mo Alley Cox, that's
Well,
not saying a
no,
whole
that's what I'm saying. Mo Alley Cox is a solid contributor. The guy can play. I'm not saying he's stellar, but you can take his game, his knowledge, and then put that in Jelani Woods' body. We're looking at a hell of a player.
Perhaps that's asking a lot, though.
I mean, it's a weapon, though. It's something that they really want to do, get Matt Ryan some weapons, because it's something they struggled with last year. So I can't. I'm
And
with
he
you. Taking
definitely
a
red
tight
zone
end that
target.
early, it seems crazy, but I don't think it is.
Definitely solid red zone target,
Oh, no doubt.
big time. Um, Now, I think they got lucky with Bernard Ryman they took him 4 picks after Woods. He's a tackle, could play guard. I'm not sure their incumbent left tackle, Matt Pryor's the answer. I mean, he's basically only played if the player in front of him's gotten hurt, be it in Philly or in Indy. I don't think Raymond's the answer there either. I don't know what they're going to do at left tackle. That's still a hole for them. For me, I wish they would have addressed it earlier in the draft, but
and it's a shame when you have a statue for your starting quarterback.
yeah, it's not ideal. That's for sure.
So I thought Rams good July Woods. One other thing with Woods, I don't know if you found this when you researched it all. Coming out of high school, did you know the other position he played? He was a top 25 recruit in the country at quarterback.
It's usually quarterback whenever.
Yeah, it usually is, but he was in the top 25.
Like Lane Johnson.
Yeah, it's just nuts. But our boy Nick Cross went to Maryland. It's 4.34 40.
I was going to ask you what you thought.
He's going to play like he's fast and he's a ball hawk. He's good. Struggles a bit with coverage, oddly, because with him so fast, but he's not going to be forced to be covering a lot of these star receivers one-on-one. They're saying that there's a real chance he'll be starting right off the bat. But when you can add that much speed to the back of your defense, that can help everything in front of it. But man, they got Pittman, Pierce, Campbell now. They got and you've probably seen all the stuff with Pierce that they're saying that they're saying out of camp. That he's just unstoppable right now in the end zone. Like nobody can stop. And he even said, "I've got this huge catch radius there. Just throw it up. I'm going to catch it."
Well, he's the only receiver in college football to catch a touchdown on Sauce Gardner because he did it in practice.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think Pierce would have went earlier. A lot of people think he should have went later.
I like him a lot.
I think this could be a steal for them. It could really open up the off, especially in the red zone, because they really, I mean, part of it was Wentz last year. He's trash, but I gave this a B overall. Not super stellar, but certainly not bad. They met some needs. I liked it. Uninspiring is my word again. Uninspiring, yet solid. Well, there's no big name in there. There's no name in there that any of us are thinking like, "Oh, that guy, wow, great."
Right. I mean, okay. I was just saying no one fell to them, but people did fall. They just chose not to take them.
Well, true.
Last one for the AFC South.
No, we have 2 more.
No, we got 2 more. You're right. Jacksonville and Tennessee. So Jacksonville is next up. They gambled right off the bat with Trayvon Walker, first overall pick, and they gamble. It still makes no sense. I do think that they rebounded a little bit by trading up for Devin Lloyd.
Absolutely.
At pick 27. I mean, this guy is the best linebacker in the draft. Love the pick. They also fortified the interior of their O-line. They had Brandon Linder retired for them. So they took Luke Fortner. And then they said, you know what? We're not happy with our linebacking room yet. So we're going to take Chad Mumal, another top 5, top 6 linebacker in the draft. Now, Mumal, he's not going to start right away. They free agent, they added Foye Oluokun. Not sure about that last name there, but he came from Atlanta, hit 191 total tackles last year.
Yeah, he was a beast.
So I know. So I don't know where Mumal is going to fit in right away. Obviously, Devin Lloyd's going to start. Oh, for sure, 100%. But as far as defense goes, he might need an injury to get in there.
Yeah, I gave this a C+ because the Walker thing we've discussed ad nauseum. Just
I don't want to.
What? So Devin Lloyd, goalie, that was great. Yeah, you're right. And then Fortner's going to start probably right away. And then Mumal, this is how I would describe that pick, because I love the dude, but a luxury pick for a team who cannot afford any luxury. It makes no sense. At pick 70, there were so many players out there that fit immediate needs, guys that you could plug into a starting role now. But no, we're going to pick a 3rd inside linebacker so he can play special teams for a couple years.
How about Travis Jones?
I don't get it when you have so many needs. Again, this is a team that's terrible. Why are you taking luxury picks at pick 70?
How about Travis Jones, man? I'd rather have him there.
Yeah,
Marvin
that's what
Leal.
this doesn't make
Bolster that
any
D-line.
sense. This makes no sense. It's like they can't get out of the way of themselves again.
Even Jalen Tolbert. You throw a wide receiver out there.
Yeah, I'm blown away. I don't get that. So I think I could have put them up to a B with a decent pick there. But and again, don't get me wrong, Chad Mumaw, I think he could be a player.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's going to sit and play primarily special teams for 2 to 3 years.
Yep, right. All right, now we're in the last team of the AFC South. The Tennessee Titans, they traded away A.J. Brown to Philadelphia and took one of their first round picks, and they drafted Treylon Burks, my number 1 receiver coming out. Love that guy. That's exactly what San Francisco should have done with Debo, but you snooze, you lose. Then they took Roger McCreary with the 3rd pick of the 2nd round. He's a corner from Auburn. I think NFL folks liked him more than me. He's pretty small. He's got short arms, but he did play well against SEC competition. So he's definitely got that feather in his cap. Right. And then the Titans.
That gets everybody up like 10 to 15 picks because you play in the SEC.
It does. You're right. Then they take Malik Willis at 86, the quarterback. Do you think, before we move on to a pick that I kind of intrigues me a little bit, do you think Brian Tannehill coming out and saying it's not his job to mentor Willis, you think that's a big deal?
I think we briefly discussed this. I think it's a crock because if you read the entire excerpt, it's not what he said. They asked him this, that, what his job is, and this. He said, well, it's my job to compete, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not my job to mentor him, but we'll be in the same room. We'll be in the same meeting. So I'm sure he's going to learn a lot from me and I'll be helping him out some, blah, 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 blah. But they take this one little thing and make it seem like, screw that guy, I'm going to bury him. That's just not what he said. Not even. And then so many of his teammates, Tannehill, come out and say, this is not even close to what Tannehill is. He's like an extra coach in the building. He helps everybody at every position. So I would think it was a big deal if it was accurate. But since the press has to get clicks again, it's just a crock of, you know the word.
I hear you.
You got me fired up there, brother, because that's
I love it.
I knew such a crock. And you knew I was going to go a little crazy. You knew what was coming. I hate the press and how they just warp everything. Even football now, we can't even have our sports anymore without this crap.
I know. Hey, deep breaths.
We can have a whole podcast on how much I hate the media and sports.
So Hassan Haskins, give me 3 words to describe him. No, he intrigues me, man. He's big. He's 6'2", 230 pounds, running back from Michigan. He was productive too. 1,300 yards, 20 touchdowns and 14 starts. He won't play unless or maybe until Derrick Henry goes down.
Yeah, I know, but I've read a couple things that he's going to probably start the season legit as the number 2, and that they might start backing off Henry's workload just a little bit.
Maybe. I mean, because if Henry does go down, because they still have Dontrell Hilliard there,
they do,
who has a role, and Deontay Foreman, when Henry did go down last year, Foreman averaged about 15 carries a game. I think that'd be easily done for Haskins. And a player that I really like, and I'm kicking myself for not doing more research pre-draft on him, is Kyle Phillips. First team All Pac-12 wide receiver. They got him in the 5th round, pick 163. 163. This guy has Hunter Renfrow written all over him.
Yeah,
he's not big. He's not fast. He's just good at football. I mean, Hunter Renfrow, you look at this dude, and it looks like he should be wearing white New Balances, grilling hot dogs in the backyard in his white picket fence. But he's a great route running.
What does that even mean?
Wide receiver. Have you seen the guy? He looks
like
an
23-year-old guy does that. What does that even mean?
Look at it. He doesn't look like he's 23. That's my point.
But like he should have on white New Balances and grilling.
Yeah, that's what dads do. Don't you know what dads do? You're a dad. You got your white New Balances. Little green from the grass that you just
owned. I've never owned New Balances in my life, but I do like to grill.
Well,
your analogies sometimes are so odd, but we still love you.
Of course.
But the dude can play. He's going to be a slot nightmare.
Awesome.
Slot nightmare.
Great. Yeah, I love it.
And Okonkwo, Maryland boy. They're saying he's a Jonnu Smith straight up clone.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing.
No,
Jonnu's really only good 1 year. As far as fantasy
well, he
goes?
got hurt, but as far as fantasy, yeah, he had too many injuries. But when he's on the field, that dude could play. The
When?
worst thing he could ever do is that he went to New England. That was stupid.
Correct.
Burks, have you seen these reports about Burks?
He's a little. It takes a couple days to get in football shape. Okay, leave this guy alone.
But I think
He's
it's
tired.
no, I love Burks, same as you do. He's in my top 5 guys too. But it's always concerning anytime when a guy goes in his first rookie camp and he can't breathe for more than 20 minutes. And then he comes out the next day and it turns out it wasn't just a bad off day. He's just is so out of shape. It makes you just wonder just for a second about the work ethic, because you know what you're getting into. You know you're going in the first round of the NFL draft. Why would you allow yourself in a matter of months to get that far out of shape? The team has to immediately be wondering, looking at each other like, uh-oh. But I hope not, because the dude can play, and I want to see him crush the NFL for years. But man, that to me, man, that's the beginnings of a tiny little red flag going up right away. But back to Malik Willis. This could be the steal of the whole draft. This is one of those ones in 10 years we might be looking back and like, look at all the teams that passed on this guy. Again, in 4 years, he might be out of the league. But man, how he fell to 86.
With Steve McNair comps, they love it.
Yeah, just how he fell to 86. It's beyond me.
You had him going 2.
Yeah.
2.
It's
with 86.
I just don't understand it. But man, I gave them an A- because I think they met a lot of needs. And then they just had Malik Willis just drop into their lap.
Good for them.
I don't know who the front runner. I would still give them the front runner for that division, but I think the other teams are going to start winning more. I don't think it's just going to be a walk in the park like it has been the last 2 years.
I agree. I definitely think Jacksonville's improving. Well, they got rid of Urban Meyer, so they have to improve.
You know, that was a big step. Wow. Has there ever been anybody more just overwhelmed by a job than him?
Now that'll get me fired up. So let's move on to the AFC West. The Denver Broncos, they gave up their first, second, and fifth round pick this year, along with quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive lineman Shelby Harris for Russell Wilson. Even though they didn't have early picks, I like what they did with their first 2 at 64 and 80. They got Nick Bonito, edge from Oklahoma, and Greg Dulcich, which I had mentioned earlier, tight end from UCLA. Bonito had, I believe, a better win rate percentage than Aiden Hutchinson. I think I remember hearing that. If it wasn't better than Aiden Hutchinson, it was right behind him. So they were comparable in how often they beat the player they were playing against. Dulcich obviously feels a need vacated by Noah Fant. Head to Seattle. I know they have Albert O there, but I'm not sold that he's the guy.
Nobody is.
Right. Luke Wattenberg, who they took all the way down at 171, could actually compete to be the starting center. But outside of that, most of these guys are really depth / special teams pieces that Denver hopes is going to develop into contributors.
Right. I gave these guys a B because they hit the things that they wanted to get right off the bat.
And they got their QB.
And Mathis runs a 4.39, so he's fast. And then you get Russell Wilson as part of all this. They're a solid team. I think you think higher on them as a team than I do. I honestly think they're going to come in last in the division, but they might be 10-7.
Wild. They might be 10-7 and win the division. They might be 10-7 and be fourth in the division.
Right. But I would put my house on the fact that the winner of that division will be more than 10 and better than 10-7.
I hear it. Next up, Kansas City. I think they kind of crushed it.
Yes.
I think they kind of crushed it.
Yes.
They traded up for McDuffie, which on the outside, I'm not sure made a lot of sense, but if you're not a Kaiir Elam guy, then there probably was a decent drop off between McDuffie and Elam or whoever else you had next. But they took our guy, George Karlaftis. Man, he's awesome. All he cares about is football. And it just, I
think
heard
all he cares about is the football.
Dude, they've already had to tell him.
He just wants it. They
already had to tell him to tone it down in practice. He's already got
Oh, he is the
reprimanded
man.
in Kansas City because he tries too hard in practice. It's
I
just
got to get a Karlaftis jersey.
oh, me and you both, man. And then, oh, gosh, Sky Moore at 54.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure this is the second round pick they got from Miami in the Tyreek Hill trade. But I'm telling you what, man, is there a better match made in heaven than Sky Moore and
Nope.
Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid?
The best fit in this entire draft. The one guy that fell into the most perfect spot you could fall into.
That's I love it. I love everything about it. And then they took Brian Cook, safety from Cincinnati. I don't know that he's going to come right in for Tyrann Mathieu's spot.
No,
maybe.
No, Reed will. Justin Reed will have that, but he's going to learn from Justin Reed and be a great backup.
They also took linebacker Leo Chenal, which I like from Wisconsin. And then they got Darian Kennard, offensive tackle from Kentucky. Yep. I thought he was a top 60-ish player. And they got him at 145.
They got Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, 6'3" and 6'2", big tall corners to cover all that madness, a bevy of amazing tall receivers in that division.
Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams.
Right. And a lot of people gave Reed a lot of crap for the Tyreek trade, but man, look at their starters now. Mahomes, CEH. They got Ronald Jones. Most people don't even, that was sort of an afterthought in the offseason. Yep. They got Juju, MVS, Sky Moore, Kelsey still. You can make the argument as far as depth goes, that's a better lineup than they had last year.
Well, after Tyreek Hill, it's nobody. Byron Pringle and
there was nothing last year. They got a legit everything now. I
don't know. They have a legit number one receiver.
I guess. I mean, I think Sky Moore is going to be their legit number one, but Juju is like 3 years removed from 110 receptions or something. MVS drops
3 years feels like a long time,
but hopefully he'll catch the ball a little bit more than he did for Rodgers. He didn't have many drops last year. I think he had I think I saw something. He only had like one or two drops last year.
I don't know. He
usually have that, by halftime. I'm just saying the Tyreek thing, losing Tyreek Hill, nobody could ever say that's not going to hurt your offense. You'd be a fool to think that. But they got a lot of pieces here, dude, and they made their defense stronger. You got McDuffie, Karlaftis. I mean, you got these tall corners that are going to go in there when they need them. Chenal he'll be playing behind Jermaine Carter. It's just, I don't know. I think they really, you hit it. They hit the nail on the head, the jackpot. I gave them an A.
They're right back in it. I mean, it's not like you thought maybe they wouldn't be after losing Tyreek Hill, but
so this is more going back to Andy. We had a discussion a few weeks ago. Andy Reid, through the years now, has learned to adjust. He saw the writing on the wall. He's like, okay, this was good for 4 years, but this is about to fall apart, drop off a cliff. Let's blow the whole thing up for the most part, start over. And this was just, I mean, it's amazing for people who hate the Chiefs. Keep on hating because you got 4 or 5 more years now to deal with this before they do it again.
Well, what amazed me even more is our next team. And they did not have as good of a draft as Kansas City, but I'll get to what I mean in a minute, because I feel like we've done this dance before where a team gave up their first and second round picks to acquire a superstar. Here we are again, Vegas sending their picks to Green Bay for Devontae Adams. And the reason this draft was interesting to me is because, frankly, I don't think the Raiders screwed it up, which is shocking because that's what they do. I saw a stat where 97 of the 106 players from the first 3 rounds of the 2020 draft are still on their drafted team. Of the 9 that aren't on their drafted team, 5 are from the Raiders.
Yeah, you had a bunch of fools drafting.
Right.
A guy who was basically just an announcer on ESPN for 20 years, and another guy who the game passed him by 20 years ago and refused to adapt one iota.
Wow.
And going.
So their first pick is at number 90, Dylan Parham. He can play guard or center, which definitely filled a need for them. And then after not exercising Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option, they drafted running back Zamir White from Georgia. And I think they got a good deal getting him in the 4th round.
It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay. All right. hit on that here in just a minute, because 4 picks later, they took Neil Farrell at 126, who I know a lot of NFL guys really like. NFL Films, Greg Cassell, who's been breaking down film for 40 years. I listened to him go on a rant about how much he loved this Neil Farrell fellow from LSU.
He
So
looks like a abominable snowman or like a Yeti or Sasquatch. He is just straight ignore. He's one of those guys that I think you would meet in person. You know he's huge, but when you actually meet him, you just be like, what is this thing? Monstrosity. That's how
like,
big that guy looks on tape. I can't imagine what he must look like in person. He's just enormous.
it's like seeing a picture of Fletcher Cox, who's like 6'3", 320, standing next to Jordan Davis, and Fletcher Cox looks like a normal dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then they got Matthew Butler as well. Another running back, Britton Brown. They now have Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Zamir White, Brandon Bolden, Amir Abdullah, Britton Brown, and from the University of Texas, San Antonio, Mr. Sincere McCormick, who they expect to make the team. The guy had, like, I didn't write down all his numbers, but apparently he just had these sick numbers last year, like 12 touchdowns, 1,600 yards. The guy's just amazing that they're expecting to make the team, special teams. So do we want to touch the Zamir White thing now? Because my Raiders buddy read me like everything in the book. Oh, he gave it all to me, what he thinks about this pick.
Let's hear it. Zamir White.
He loved it, and he convinced, because I liked it, but he convinced me to love it too. So Josh McDaniels is there. So now it's going to be the New England playbook. We're going to have 4 or 5 running backs. You're never going to know which is which. Josh Jacobs, though he did well at the end of last year when those other jokers were going, get paid way too much. They didn't exercise his 5th year. He's going to be going. They don't want to pay him. Kenyon Drake, he'll be lucky if he makes the team this year because of how much they're paying him. So why pay so much money to backs that you're never going to use? So immediately, Zamir White you could make the case he's going to be the de facto starter, if not partway through this year, if they get rid of Jacobs earlier, but the next year. And then they'll run Bolden, Abdullah, Britton Brown. All these guys are going to rotate over and over, all on these minimal little contracts. And you can spend all that money for your needs, because why spend money on a guy that's only going to see the playing field 30% of the time anyway? So that's like his favorite pick of like the last 10 years for the Raiders.
Nice.
And he's so happy. And he's so happy that Gruden's going and Mayock's going. And now you got our Fresno State boys together. These guys could do some damage. So I gave them a B- overall for just the draft, because they hit some things, but other things they really needed better offensive tackle help. But when you throw in the trade, absolute 100% an A, big giant A. These guys are, like you said, for Denver. They could come in first. They could come in last. I really believe that. I think I told you the other day that this team, this division, literally the last place team could be 10-7. I mean, when does that happen in the NFL? That's
not often, my friend.
No, if ever.
This is going to be a wild ride in the AFC West.
Yeah, they're all going to be on each other.
Who I'm going to talk about right now might be the best team in the AFC West after talking up those other 3 teams. But the Los Angeles Chargers, they started with taking Zion Johnson, guard, at 17. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. And they took another guard, Jamari Salyer, at 195. He's from Georgia, obviously. So really going out of their way to protect Herbert. Unbelievably smart. Got to keep him upright. They took JT Woods, safety from Baylor. He's got good ball skills. He's got track star speed. He should be a great compliment to Derwin James. Get Derwin James down the box, let him blitz some more, do his thing. Isaiah Spiller, who they took, I feel like we're always shocked. Oh, the Chargers took a running back, but they have Eckler and this and that. Dude, if you've been paying attention, the Chargers have been dying for a between the tackles compliment to Eckler. They've drafted 5 running backs in the last 5 years, and they keep missing. Josh Kelly, not the answer. Justin Jackson, not the answer. Larry Roundtree, not the answer. Spiller might just be the answer. He might finally be that guy that really gets in Eckler's way as far as fantasy goes. Real football, great pick. Plus, they got him in the 4th round. Spiller in the 4th round.
Oh, yeah.
And then another one for me was Wake Forest corner, Jasir Taylor. because he might come in and start as their slot corner right off the bat.
Yeah, he might. I actually have that written down. That there's a really good chance he'll be a starter right off the bat. You know, an interesting pick was number 260, Xander Horvath. I read a thing out of there that they've been working him a little bit of just running, being like an all-star, giving the ball on the 1 yard line. He's our goal line back, throw him in there, which football wise, brilliant. For Eckler wise, not brilliant.
Pull your hair out.
Yeah. Let him do all the work and then give the 6 points to this guy. But yeah, Spiller there, Wood Johnson. This is just a really solid draft. I gave him an A.
Solid team, man.
A lot of things I'm
reading.
reading said they really need to still get a right tackle. Yeah, and they got Camille Mack for a second rounder.
Yes.
I think we talked during the week. If he's like 75% of what he used to be, that's a steal. But you're one right tackle away from being maybe a Super Bowl front runner.
Yeah, so why can't now? Listen, I don't know how you're going to shuffle everything, but you got Zion Johnson. He's played now after going to the Senior Bowl and practicing at center. He's played every position on the front. You could put Zion Johnson right tackle if you really wanted to.
Could. Yeah.
I don't know what their plans are, you know.
Well, nobody does, and they probably. I would imagine right now they're looking at things I've seen. It said they're pretty much just standing pat with what they got. They'll look at some of these needs next year because there's not a lot out there really to fill what they need. But man, this is a team that it gels even a little bit. Look out.
Yes.
They might not only see that scores 45 points a game, and in any given week, their defense might throw up a shutout. Probably not against these other AFC West teams, but some of the weaker offenses in the league. This is a formidable defense now.
I'm really excited to break this team down in the coming weeks whenever we get closer to the season and we hit on the Chargers. I'm really excited about it. So that wraps it up as far as the draft picks go. The last thing I have, a little interesting thing I heard on the radio was that over I don't know if it's the last few years, it was a significant chunk of time. But the top 2 groups from the draft that developed into Pro Bowlers were first and second round picks. Duh, right? No surprise. But the next biggest group of players to develop into Pro Bowlers, undrafted free agents. How about that? And here's a few that I wrote down just that stuck out to me. Atlanta took Tyler Vrabel, offensive tackle from Boston College. Might sound familiar because his father is the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Vrabel. The Rams took the kicker Cameron Dicker from Texas. He has a career long of 57 yards field goal. He kicked for 4 years. Plus the dude can punt. Plus he's a kicker and his name's Dicker, which is a lot of fun. The Bears signed 20 undrafted free agents. I'm not sure what the record is, but 20 feels like a lot. The Saints took they signed a safety. His name is Smoke Monday. It might be the coolest name in the draft. Smoke Monday. The Eagles took, and I'm sure you love this one. They signed Carson Strong. They also signed Josh Jobe. Yeah, they took Strong and they took Josh Jobe. I
texted you that when I first saw it.
Yeah. Cornerback from Alabama, Josh Jobe. So again, here's a guy that, we don't know what he's going to be. If he's going to be anything, might not even make the team, but he went against some pretty stiff competition in the SEC. And then lastly, the Bills took Jalen Weidermeyer, who was a tight end from Texas A&M, I believe it was. But he entered this past season as a first-round prospect, going into the season, first-round prospect. But he was way too inconsistent, way too many drops, needs to improve his blocking. But he's got the traits. He wouldn't have even been in the first-round conversation ever if he didn't have the traits. So that could be interesting to see how that one plays out.
2 quick things. I got to give a shout-out to Forrest Ryan, linebacker from Villanova, who is a UDFA with the Colts. He is from the town that I currently live in, Waynesboro, PA, and you used to live in. So that's pretty cool when a hometown boy ends up on an NFL team.
Oh, yeah.
And back to Carson Strong. If I were the Eagles, I would get rid of Gardner Minshew yesterday. Get everything you can for him now, because if he doesn't win the number 2 job, you've now lost draft stock in him. And I would get rid of him now. Why? His name is still relatively hot. The stash is rocking. And get what you can, because it might be a 3rd rounder today. It might be a 7th rounder in August.
Minshew's the new Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He
You just
is.
can't not love him. You can't, and he
And he's
comes
going
in
to
and
go
he
everywhere, and he's
gunslinger,
going to have
wins games.
relative success. He's not going to win a Super Bowl, but he's going to have relative success everywhere he goes. And then that coach will crap on him. He'll go somewhere else. He'll do the same thing. They'll crap on him.
Fans will love him.
And everywhere he leaves, the guy that comes in will suck. And they'll wish they never got rid of him. But in this case, I get rid of him because you don't need, he's not replacing Hurts. Strong is going to be a solid, might never get to be a starter, but I think he should. Guy in the league. Get rid of Minshew now. You've got the name recognition. Make this all season even stronger for you and your boys.
I mean, that's the smart move. I really like Minshew.
We love him.
But I know, but that is probably the smart.
Yeah, him carrying a clipboard's not going to help you.
Right.
Getting some nice picks for him next year could, or even a player that fits a need, fits a hole right now.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap it up, the 6th episode of the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. Thank you for listening. Our tunes are by Flatline. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, YouTube, like us, subscribe, follow, get us on Facebook and Twitter at GYBR_podcast. That's at GYBR_podcast. Thanks again. He's Kevin. I'm Bobby. See you next week.
We'll see you.